black men running around playing defense attorney for white folks, advocating for Marshall Mathers. Nothing against Eminem personally, but for a black person to go out of their way to fight for any white person to be considered the greatest of all time in an art form that should be sacred to our community, our culture, and our people is absolutely ridiculous. It is absolutely ridiculous. But let me address the Caucasian community, because I've been called racist probably 1,000 times today, and I don't mind. I absolutely do not mind, because there's a few things we know. After 1,000 years of direct interaction with Caucasians, there's a few things we do know. One thing we know about you is you're not honest about anything if it jeopardizes your power and control of other groups.
So the video you just saw was Dr. Umar Johnson going in on black people and white people. So if you know Dr. Umar Johnson, he's Pan-Africanism. If I'm saying it right, he's Pan-Africanism. So he's everything about Africa, he's everything about black. So he's going in on people who are black and are white, because he was recently on Joe Budden's podcast and he was talking about Eminem can never be the greatest rapper of all time because he's white. It's a very deep topic, but you have to hear his take on it. He made the point to say that we can't go to Dubai and Palestine, Israel, and be the best at nothing that's their culture. Let that sink in, y'all. We can't go to none of those places. Spain, Israel, Asia, Korea, and be nothing. Nothing. Like, we can't be dominant in nothing that's their culture. They're not gonna have it. They gonna see that you don't make it through. You know what I mean? You can't even, like, they won't even put you in the ranks because of who you are. So him making that point, it was very controversial. And they had a lot of people in his inbox, a lot of people flagging his page, and so on and so on. So he took to Instagram Live today to just, you know, reiterate, give his point on it about the whole Eminem thing. My thing is, you gotta ask yourself as a person. I don't know too many people who go in their car right now and turn on some Eminem. I don't know too many people who get on social media, YouTube, and type in Eminem. Yet he is the most streamed artist, like right now, like damn near rapper right now. Like besides NBA YoungBoy and somebody, I forgot who else, but he is one of the most streamed artists right now. Let that sink in. So Dr. Umar basically was, you know, long story short, he was basically going in on black people who argue with him about it, and of course the Caucasians who argue with him about it. So what we have to look at this live is the live cut off. He got a phone call to basically let him know that, hey, they flagging your page. They go get your ass if you don't get off his live talking about them. So he came back on live, which y'all about to see, and he basically let us know, like, hey, I can't really be talking about that. They on my ass. This shit deep, y'all. This is deep. He's really opening people's eyes to what's going on, y'all. But I've said enough. I've been talking for 3 minutes. Hit the subscribe button. Lock in with us. You won't miss no content.
Integrity perspective. Haven't they stolen enough from us? Haven't they appropriated enough from us? Haven't they robbed, stealed, killed, enslaved, lynched, miseducated, mass incarcerated, politically dominated us enough that you mean to tell me that after 404 years, you got black people running around playing defense attorney and cheerleader for white folks? You got black people running around after 404 years playing defense attorney and cheerleader. The fact that you got black people arguing for a white man to be considered the greatest of all time in an African art form speaks to how psychologically ill we are as a race of people. After all we have been through in this country, you got black men running around playing defense attorney for white folks, advocating for Marshall Mathers. Nothing against Eminem personally, but for a black person to go out of their way to fight for any white person to be considered the greatest of all time in an art form that should be sacred to our community, our culture, and our people is absolutely ridiculous. It is absolutely ridiculous. But let me address the Caucasian community, because I've been called racist probably 1,000 times today, and I don't mind. I absolutely do not mind, because there's a few things we know. After 1,000 years of direct interaction with Caucasians, there's a few things we do know. One thing we know about you is you're not honest about anything if it jeopardizes your power and control of other groups. Let me say that one more time. I'm talking to all you Caucasians who saw fit to have a temper tantrum on my timeline. I'm talking to all you Caucasians who saw fit to flood my inbox. I'm talking to all you Caucasians who Peace and Pan-Africanism, my African family. I'm not going to be able to go in the way that I wanted to. I wanted to address the hypocrisy of perpetrators of racism who call the victims racist. I wanted to address that, but I've been informed that members of the Neanderthal nation have been reporting me. So I'm not going to be able to go in the way that I wanted to go in. I really wanted to expose the hypocrisy of people who have more energy for a conversation on who's the greatest rapper than they do for protecting black people from the police. I really wanted to deal with the hypocrisy of these Caucasians who have so much negative energy for being told they have no business exploiting black culture. But we don't see that same energy for giving black people reparations. We don't see that same energy for justice for black people. We don't see that same energy with making sure African people get their fair share of a country that our ancestors built with their bare hands. See, if they cared as much about police brutality as they care about Eminem being called the GOAT, if they cared as much about police brutality against black people as they care about Eminem being called the GOAT, if they cared as much about mass incarceration reform as they cared about Eminem being called the GOAT, if they cared as much for black women being sexually trafficked as they care about Eminem being called the GOAT, we would have solved a lot of our problems by now. Calling somebody racist when your people are the greatest purveyors of racism and genocide in the history of humanity. Calling someone racist when your people are the greatest purveyors of racism and genocide in the history of humanity, I find it quite hypocritical. Why would you pay for a question when Google is free? Because number one, I'm not Google. And number two, I'm sending you to the Snow Bunny block party. Brothers and sisters, they have invaded my box, posting all over my timeline, upset because their Caucasian privilege has been disturbed. Upset because your Caucasian privilege has been disturbed. Upset because your Caucasian privilege has been disturbed. You think you have a right to invade black people's space. You think you have a right to invade black people's space. You think we don't have a right to tell you you're not welcome, when you always tell us we're not welcome. Did you forget we had to fight for our children to go to decent schools because y'all kept us out? Did you forget we had to fight in order to work?
In the armed forces because y'all kept us out? Did you forget we had to fight to live in the suburbs because y'all kept us out? We had to fight to take public transportation because y'all kept us out. We had to fight to go to the supermarket or the movie theater or to go swimming in a pool because y'all kept us out. And you mean to tell me because I said no non-African has any business being considered the greatest of all time in any aspect of our cultural expression, now you got an attitude? So if I'm a racist for saying that, which I cannot be because racism implies the ability to disenfranchise another group of people, I don't have that ability. See, y'all love to call black people racist because it's a distraction away from your racism. Y'all love to call us racist because it's a distraction from who the real racists are. We never hung nobody from no trees. We never created diseases to get rid of nobody. We never intentionally miseducated your children. But you call us racist because you have this thing where you have to always play victim. You have to always play the victim so nobody realizes you're the perpetrator. You have to always play victim so nobody realizes you're the perpetrator. You have to always play victim so nobody realizes that you're actually the perpetrator. I see how this game go. I'm a racist because I said Eminem has no business being called a goat. But when your grandparents, and even today, when you discriminate against black folks, when you redline us into ghettos, and when you redline us from bank loans, and when you keep us out of jobs and give them to white folks who are lesser qualified, are you not a racist? A bunch of damn hypocrites. A bunch of damn hypocrites. A bunch of damn hypocrites. If y'all had this energy for police brutality, why isn't the George Floyd police reform bill, why hasn't that been put into legislation yet? Why hasn't the George Floyd police reform bill been signed into law yet? So-called liberal Caucasians, where is the George Floyd police reform bill? But y'all up here crying crocodile tears for Eminem. You're up here crying crocodile tears for Eminem. Where is the George Floyd police reform bill at? But y'all want to flood my inbox. Arrogance, narcissism, terrorism. When I think of you, I think of arrogance, I think of narcissism, I think of terrorism. I think of arrogance. You think you got a right to do whatever you want. I think of narcissism. You think you God's gift to the world. And I think of terrorism. Anybody who doesn't do what you want them to do, you think you can terrorize them. White privilege. White privilege. White privilege. Brothers and sisters, I'm feeling marvelous tonight in Fort Worth, Texas.